Imagine waking up, walking outside, and realizing your neighbor just bricked over every window on his house. Not because he's renovating, because he doesn't want to pay his taxes. In 1696, England introduced something called the window tax. The more windows you had, the more you paid. So people did the only logical thing. They sealed them up forever. That's just one of 10 completely insane money laws that actually existed. Let's get into the rest. Number 10. In 1765, the British government and the American colonies were not getting along, so Britain introduced the Stamp Act, requiring a physical tax stamp on paper goods, newspapers, legal documents, even playing cards. That meant every deck of cards sold in America had a government stamp on one card. If you got caught playing cards without the stamp, you were a tax criminal. The colonists were so furious about this, they literally invented a new country over it. The Stamp Act lasted 1 year before the backlash forced it to be repealed. But the damage was done. Revolution incoming. Number 9. Peter the Great wanted Russia to look more like Western Europe, clean-shaven, modern, sophisticated. His people? They wanted beards, so in 1698, Peter did what any reasonable emperor would do. He taxed facial hair. Anyone who wanted to keep their beard had to carry a special copper token at all times, a beard license. The token literally read, "The beard is a superfluous burden. If a tax collector stopped you and you couldn't produce your beard coin, shaved. Right there. No appeal." Number 8. The Romans built aqueducts, concrete, and a legal system we still use today. They also taxed human urine. Laundry workers in ancient Rome collected urine from public bathrooms because the ammonia was perfect for cleaning clothes. The Emperor Vespasian saw this thriving urine economy and said, "I want a cut." So he placed a tax on the collection of urine from public latrines. His own son told him it was disgusting. Vespasian's response became a Latin proverb still quoted today. Money does not stink. 2,000 years later, his name is literally on public urinals in France. They're called Vespasienne. Number 7. For over 200 years, France had one tax that everyone hated more than any other. The gabelle, the salt tax. Here's why it was so crazy. The government didn't just tax the salt. They required every person over age 8 to buy a minimum amount of salt every single week, whether you needed it or not. And the price varied wildly by region. One town paid 10 times what the next town paid. Smuggling salt became a massive underground industry. Get caught? Prison, or worse. The gabelle became so hated that when the French Revolution kicked off, salt tax collectors were among the first targets. Number 6. Britain in the 18th century ran on two things, tea and hats, and they taxed both. The hat tax of 1784 required every hat seller to buy an expensive license, and each hat sold had to have a revenue stamp glued inside the lining. The stamp price depended on the hat's cost. More expensive hat, bigger tax. Hat makers started stamping tax paid inside every hat. Some even printed it on the outside just to look honest. The tax was so universally despised that people just stopped buying hats. The hat industry cratered. The tax limped along for 27 years before being scrapped. But by then, the damage was done, and going hatless had become fashionable. Number 5. In 2011, Denmark became the first country in the world to tax saturated fat. Any food with more than 2.3% saturated fat got an extra charge. Butter, cheese, pizza, bacon, even milk. A pound of butter went up by about 45 cents. Doesn't sound like much. But Danes started crossing the border into Germany and Sweden to buy groceries. Danish stores lost millions. The tax lasted 15 months before the government killed it. They also scrapped the planned sugar tax before it even launched. The whole experiment confirmed something economists already suspected. If you tax a sandwich hard enough, people will drive to another country to eat it. Number 4. Before coins were standard, governments collected taxes in whatever people actually had. Grain, livestock, labor. In feudal England and across much of medieval Europe, if you were a peasant with no silver coins, you showed up to the tax collector with a chicken or a sack of wheat, or you worked a certain number of days on the lord's land for free. This system was called tax in kind, and it meant the tax collector's office was basically a farm. Chickens everywhere. Grain silos, a logistical nightmare. The phrase bringing home the bacon might trace back to this era. Literal tax payments in livestock. The weirdest part? Some remote regions kept paying taxes in chickens well into the 1800s. Number 3. In Kentucky, there is still a law in the books that makes it illegal to carry an ice cream cone in your back pocket. Why does this law exist? Horse thieves. Supposedly, horse thieves in the 1800s would put ice cream in their back pocket to lure horses away from their owners. The horse would follow the thief, thinking they had a treat. Was this ever actually enforced? Almost certainly not. But the law has never been repealed. So technically, if you're in Kentucky with a waffle cone in your jeans, you are a criminal. Number 2. Back to 1696. The logic was simple. Bigger houses have more windows. More windows means more wealth. Tax the windows, tax the rich. Instead, people panicked. Landlords bricked up entire facades. Tenements went dark. In some buildings, you can still see the outlines of old windows. Ghost squares of brick where light used to come through. The tax was supposed to last a few years. It lasted 155 years. Number 1. Denmark tried a fat tax and failed. But New Zealand went further. In 2003, New Zealand proposed a tax on livestock flatulence. Yes, cow farts. Agriculture accounts for nearly half the country's emissions, and most of that is cows. The proposal was to charge farmers per animal to fund emissions research. The plan was so controversial it was scrapped before it started. Farmers protested by driving tractors to Parliament. The media called it the fart tax, but here's the kicker. Denmark brought it back. As of 2024, Denmark actually implemented the world's first carbon tax on agriculture, effectively taxing livestock emissions. New Zealand is watching very closely, so the next time you complain about your taxes, remember? At least nobody's measuring your windows, counting your chickens, or checking your pockets for ice cream. Well, at least 2 of those.